Hey everybody, this is Dream, and we have an incredible 8-game NBA slate for you. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really helps the channel a lot. Really do appreciate it. As you can look at these slate, we have a lot of injuries on it. Just so many. It's crazy how many injuries that we got going on this season. But anyhow, let's go ahead and skip into our players. We got a lot of options today. It's going to be a high-scoring slate. We got some really good value plays on this one across the board, across all the different positions. And so let's go ahead and start here. So keep in mind here on DraftKings that they're not doing the late games. So that also kind of weirdly helps this slate, I think. But anyway, let's get into the slate here. So for our point guards, Jalen Brunson is the top uh, overall point guard at this position for price points, at least at $8,600. He's got a lot of upside in this match against Chicago Bulls. He did struggle a couple times recently, but he is capable of big game. He did have a little bit of a gimpy situation though the other day, so to keep that in mind. But if he in the last game he got hurt a little bit, but I do think he'll be fine if he plays, and he'll be a top tier player on the slate. I also like Shea Alexander. I just want to mention him because he's probably my favorite expensive player on the slate. He absolutely dominated the Clippers in the last game with the injuries to the Thunder, being the top dude as usual. But with Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein out, Shea Alexander is going to have to carry a bigger chunk of the workload, so he is a great option on the slate as well. Cason Wallace, his backup, is also in a solid spot as he should get 20 plus minutes in this game, though he hasn't really hit the price point that we want yet, or he hadn't really hit the numbers we want yet for his price point, but he's definitely cheap enough that he can be a Hail Mary play on the slate. Noel for the Pelicans is very interesting with all the injuries to their team. He's getting a lot. He's going to increase his minutes workload, and he's dirt cheap here. Assuming he can get over 20 minutes a game, he should be able to pay off at this price point until he goes up in price at least. Jared McCann looks like a fantastic play for Philly here. With all the injuries on this team, he's getting more and more minutes the last 3 games, and he's really paying off. His price point still hasn't really jumped up super high yet, so he's still in play here. And then Stephen Castle for the Spurs is his minutes have also increased recently, and that's going to give him a lot of opportunity to have a big game here. He's also pricing up a little bit more, but he's still capable of a good as a good option on this team. If we look at our shooting guards, Jalen Noel, Isaiah Joe, Jared McCann, all fit in here, but a couple other guys to consider. Malik Beasley for Detroit. He has had some potential recently as he's starting to get more and more minutes, and he's starting to be a little bit more consistent shooting wise. Now, he is somewhat scoring dependent, so to keep that in mind, but he's definitely in play at this position. And BJ Boston, he's going to be a very interesting player for the Pelicans as he's really ramped up his minutes and he's scoring good fantasy points. His prices come up more and more, but he's still capable of a solid game and be able to pay off at this price position, especially the way he's moving the ball around with his assists and rebounds and steals. He's got a lot of upside here, even still at this price point. Looking at our small forwards, OG Anunoby is a guy that I think is pretty much a core play for me today. He has played very well recently, and he definitely draws good, fantastic metrics here. He's been in the mid 30s to high up to 40 fantasy points almost every game, and he doesn't need a ton here. He only needs 28.5 points to pay off, so he's in a really good spot. His price point is fantastic for this matchup. Looking at Hart, he's also in play at this position and power forward for that matter. He's a little bit more expensive than the OG, but he also looks really solid. Also been playing very well, and it seems like the Knicks are starting to figure out the way that this team is going to play. Aaron Wiggins looks interesting for the Thunder. Now he's a contrarian play because he does have a low floor, but he is playing well, and he's going to have more minutes because of all the injuries mounting up on his team. BJ Boston and Mikal can also play at this position, and the Mikal Bridges, he's kind of a contrarian play on the slate, but the Knicks are definitely a team I'm favoring. If you notice, the Knicks, Oklahoma City, and then New Orleans, they definitely have the best upside teams on the slate when it comes to the pricing and stuff like that. Looking at our power forwards, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Aaron Wiggins can all play here, but Giannis is also in play. If you don't like Shea Alexander, you can pivot toward Giannis, though Giannis's minutes has been capped a little bit because of lopsided games here, but he is capable of a giant game, especially if it can stay close. Though I don't know that this game is really going to be one of those that is going to be that way, but he looks like he's really good to go here. And then Simon Fontecchio, he's in an interesting spot here. His minutes are starting to increase. He's still dirt cheap, and so as long as his minutes are over 20, then he has some utility here to be a Hail Mary play that's dirt cheap. Looking at our centers, we do like Carl Towns here. Is probably my favorite play at this position. Towns has been playing well. He's really enjoying his time with the Knicks, and he has that 50 fantasy point upside. He's also a little bit underpriced for his potential. The way he's been playing lately, hard to ignore that. And he's very close to being a core play for me at center. Miles Turner also looks interesting for Indiana, though he does have a difficult matchup here. His minutes have been in the mid 30s, and he does have a high fantasy output side, though he is a little bit more risky as he's not super cheap. He's a very good play, though. Looking at Moritz Wagner, he's also somebody that you could consider as a contrarian play today. He's been super efficient in somewhat limited minutes. He is somewhat scoring dependent, but he's capable of a solid game here at this price point. Claxton is a good contrarian play as well for Brooklyn, though he does have a tough matchup against Boston. I do think that he's capable to have a good game here, but he's definitely high risk, high reward. And same goes for Giannis at Milwaukee. He can play and be a player if that game can stay relatively close. With that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing.